carefully calculated based on local alignments, coming up with these substitution probabilities and the overall frequency of amino acids. Because of how they've been constructed, they're really sensitive to detecting even subtle changes in structural or function. So because of that, they are the best performing of the series of matrices available to you. Historically, in the very early days of bioinformatics, there was another series called the PAM matrices, and these were derived at a time when very little sequence information was available. They were mostly based on molecular proteins, a lot of extrapolations going on. The only reason I point that out to you is because, especially if you're using genetic programming, you will often see them as an option, but I would instead recommend that you pick one of the blocks of matrices for your sites. So bottom line, you can use these matrices to find both closely related and distantly related sequences. So here's where evolution now comes into play. Notice in that matrix we looked at, with all of the numbers on it, it was called BLOSUM 62. So what does that number stand for? It always is BLOSUM and a number. What the number represents to you is in this first bullet point is that that particular matrix was built using sequences that share no more than n% identity in the BLOSUM 62% identity. And so in order to remove bias, what ends up happening is we go through a process that looks like this. So let's say we have a multiple sequence alignment here. There are a couple of conserved positions which are noted by the asterisk. And let's say we want to construct a BLOSUM 8 matrix. So we're going to look for all of the pairwise combinations of these things and cluster together any of the sequences that are 80% or more similar to one another. Okay. In the next step, we actually cluster those together. So this cluster is represented by this sequence, these three by a single sequence, and these two by a single sequence. And at that point, we can calculate the matrix. Why do we do this? The reason is really more of the history of sequencing than anything else. There are more and more whole genome sequences available to us, but they're not very perfectly spread across all of the taxa. As you undoubtedly know in doing your own searches over at NCBI, that you will see the same gene has been sequenced many, many times. So when you look at which one is the right one, if you took all of that information together, you would end up biasing the analysis. So it's really just a matter of trying to take this vast amount of sequence data that we have available to us, but narrow it down to in a format that will end up being most biologically informative in order to do these comparisons. Okay. So implications. Again, when we do this clustering, we reduce the contribution of closely related sequences, less bias. Bottom line, when we reduce n, you get more distantly related sequences. When we increase n, you get more closely related sequences. So this is your first cheat sheet of the morning. Put a star on this slide, please. And basically give you some recommendations of where you should be looking for your for selections. If you're looking for shorter alignments that are highly similar, you're going to pick a BLOSUM matrix with a higher number, and you can see here the range of similarity that is best at detecting. At the bottom, if you use a BLOSUM 30 matrix, you would get longer, weaker local alignments, but you would use these to detect more distantly related proteins, things that have much lower sequence similarity. The one in yellow, the BLOSUM 62, is the default. And just again, from testing, this is the most effective at finding all potential similarities. This is the default value when you go to NCBI's last website. Okay, so you can take one of these, but I would actually defer to the guru in this field, Steve Altshuler, who was the driving force behind the development of BLAST many, many years ago. And what he normally recommends, when you don't really know what you're looking for, is to use a triple BLAST strategy. Take the default, take a higher number, take a lower number, and run your query sequence 3 times against those three, using those 3 different matrices. And that's what I would recommend you do as you get more and more familiar with these methodologies, because you'll start to find that by tweaking these values, you're going to start to deduce relationships that you didn't know that existed or didn't even have any inkling that they existed when you started. So start off with doing these triple strategies until you get more familiar again, more or less you really, really know what you're looking for. The bottom line is probably apparent at this point is that no single matrix is the complete answer for all of these sequence comparisons. And so again, I give you a strategy here. More information in this protocol in bioinformatics piece by David Wheeler is fun to add much more length about the selection of the matrices, but you have enough to get yourself started. Okay, so that's the matrices. Now, many of you have already done pairwise sequence alignments, multiple sequence alignments, and a lot of times you see gaps that are inserted. And the gaps are put there to improve the alignment. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that in putting those gaps in to improve the alignment, you basically frequently insert it in biological event. Okay? It could be a deletion, it could be an insertion. Okay, so it's not just I'm going to make it pretty by putting some gaps in. There's actually something that has to happen in the background to make that actually true. So because of that, you have to keep the gaps to a reasonable number and not reflect a biologically implausible situation. And the rule of thumb that most people use is about 1 per 20. Of course, it depends on what case you're looking at. So going back to the scoring matrices, you can now ask yourself, well, how do you score these things? Because we've been talking about aligning questions, coming up with a value for each particular position. How do you score a nucleotide or an amino acid to a gap, which is essentially nothing? Okay, so it's not a match, it's not a mismatch. What do we do with the numbers? So there is something called the affine gap penalty, and this is because we are, again, this is an implicit biological event. We have to actually deduct points anytime we put the gap into an alignment. The formula is here. So G plus ln, G is a gap opening penalty, so just when you put that first gap position in, it's a big penalty usually. So on the nucleotide side, you're deducting 5 points. On the protein side, you're deducting 11 points right off the bat. Every time you extend that gap by 1 more position, you assess this extension penalty to in the case of nuclear size 1 in the case of proteins. Okay? So again, keep in mind it's not just about making your alignment green, it's about really making it biologically plausible. And you can change these values called case in the last algorithm to make the gaps more or less permissive. Okay? So with all of that by way of background, we've now finally talked about blast basic local alignment search. This is really the cornerstone, the most important technique we use in bioinformatics because, again, it allows us to make these assumptions about morphology, chorology, what have you, really trying to figure out how two proteins are available to us and what we can learn by aligning them to one another. So we're going to hit this pretty hard today, and it's because it's important that you know how to use it properly. Unfortunately, there are many cases in the literature because of the improper use of BLAST that have led to really wrong conclusions. And at the end of the day, it's because people didn't know how to use it or they didn't interpret the results properly. The most important thing to take away from this lecture or any of the bioinformatics lectures along the way is that just because you see something, a list of results does not automatically imply biological significance. We're going to see probabilities, we're going to see scores, we're going to see all of these things, but a lot of those things that appear in the output list actually have no biological relevance, and this is where we're going to help you figure out which ones do and which ones don't. So, into the lesson here, so let's go ahead and take a poll. How many of you have used BLAST before? You are good for self-awareness, and for those few of you who've done it before, I know you've done. How many of you have ever changed the default values? Oh, good, a few of you, thank you. Okay, now, for the rest of you, nothing to be ashamed of, all will be revealed today, and you'll be able to consider yourself experts by the end of today's lecture. So, okay, back to BLAST, the basic local alignment search tool. What BLAST seeks to do is find things called high-scoring segment pairs, HSPs, and these simply are pairs of sequences that can be aligned with one another. When they are aligned, based on our scoring matrices, they have the largest maximum score possible. And you can't make that score better by making the alignment longer or shorter. They have to break something called a score threshold, and it can be either gapped or ungapped. So since this method is looking for a little pair of subsequences, again, a local alignment method, the results you get back are not limited to just the best alignment between two sequences. It'll give you all of the plausible alignments between two sequences. Okay. There are 5 different programs in the BLAST family. You can just differentiate them by the last letters. The BLAST N starts with a nucleoside sequence as its query, and it does its searches against the nucleoside database. BLAST T, the T stands for protein, so we're taking a protein sequence and searching it against the database of protein sequences. BLAST X does something a little bit funky. You start off with a nucleoside sequence, a 6-frame translation is performed, and based on those translations, the search is done against the protein database. So the comparison is actually proteins versus protein, even though you started with a nucleoside sequence. The others are on the slide for sake of completion, but in your own travels, these are the 3 that you will probably use more often than not. Okay, so how does this actually work? So let's say we have this query sequence of a particular length, and what BLAST does is it doesn't try to take this whole thing at once and do an alignment. Instead, it starts with just a few, in this case, amino acids, the default T. Invest in teaching to completely redefine my approach to teaching. And so then I felt I'd just try to improve things, in a sense, working from a system that's somewhat broken and trying to make some pieces work better. But this gave me the opportunity to actually wipe everything off the table and start fresh. So I used that year as research to educate myself. I traveled around, I visited a number of institute programs. I went first locally to MIT to look at the GeoClassroom, to multi-effective learning. I went to classes there. I went to Olin College, where I spent many days looking at their approaches to educating engineers. I went to McMaster to look at the integrated science curriculum, Melbourne University. In fact, I traveled around and read and educated myself about teaching. Reflecting back on that 4 years later, it strikes me that we actually should do more of that. We would never think of starting research without educating ourselves. Yet, when it comes to teaching, just going to the classroom, and we do what our teachers did to us, which is what I did when I started teaching at Harvard over 30 years ago. So as I read, there were a couple of books that actually had a profound impact on the design of this new course that I'm going to present to you today. And one of those books is a book by the beautiful title of Who Owns the Learning by Alan November, who's a consultant for K-12 education. And in the foreword of this book, he starts with the following sentence. Have you ever experienced something, some seemingly random event, that made you completely reconsider the very essence of what you believed was true? Unquote. He recounts in the introduction what happened to him in the early 80s. He was in Marblehead and was a high school teacher in Lexington, Massachusetts, for those of you who are visiting here, an affluent suburb west of Boston. Now, Lexington High School, being an affluent suburb, was one of the first schools to implement a computer lab. I mean, in the early 80s was the emergence of the PC, the Mac, so it was a novelty in those days, and not many high schools had access to computing facilities. He was in charge of that computer classroom. On a Sunday morning, he gets a phone call that there's been a break-in in the computer lab. He drives from his home in Marblehead to school, parks his car in the parking lot. None of the windows of the computer classroom are broken.
He goes inside. The door to the computer classroom has not been forced open. He opens the door, looks inside. All of the computers are still there. There's just one strange thing. There's a student sitting at one of the computers. So he goes over to the student and says, Jerry, what are you doing here? And Jerry looks up at him and says, I want to learn how to program the computer. That's when he realized that if somebody wants to learn, they'll do anything. They'll break the law if necessary. You don't have to bribe them with points and crack the whip. They'll learn because they want to. You see, look at small kids, 4, 5 years old. They learn not because we give them lectures and give them points and assessments and force them to learn. No. They learn because they want to learn. We are all born learners. Learning is, in a sense, living. We're all born curious. We're all born scientists. If anything, science does a really good job turning that innate curiosity that we're all born with off. And by the time we get to students, even in a school like this, they don't study in order to learn. No, they study in order to pass any requirements that they need to pass. So the rest of the book talks about how you might restore that ownership of learning that in the ordinary classroom resides with the teacher in front of the classroom to the students. Now, it's a book for K-12 education, so the rest of the book was actually not that relevant for me, but I started to think, wouldn't it be nice if in this course that I teach, where I have engineers and pre-meds who are not taking physics because they want to learn physics, no, they're taking physics because they don't take physics, and have them own their learning again. But, you know, it's one thing to do that with computers. How do you do that with physics? So it became clear I had to come up with some kind of approach that hides the physics. And the project course that I came up with was a combination of two techniques: team-based learning and project-based learning. The project is there so that I don't have to tell my students, here's my book, learn it, it's good for you. Instead, I tell them, we're going to work on this really exciting project. And once they're completely hooked on the project, I'll tell you more about that in a second, I tell them, by the way, you may want to have a look at this book. It was the project. So the project is the goal. The team-based learning is there to provide a social responsibility for the learner. See, normally the student is responsible to the teacher for his or her learning. If you properly implement team-based learning, the students are responsible to each other. Boy, are they sensitive to each other. Much more sensitive than they are to the teacher. Now, a lot of people implement team-based learning simply take the curriculum developed for individual teaching, the normal curriculum that we have, and apply it in a team-based setting. Bad idea. Because the individual curriculum can be done by individuals. So if you have a team of 5 students, and there's one student who's really good material, she or he can say, let me do it. And the others can free write. And the person who's doing all the work is annoyed that the other people are free writing, and the people who are free writing are learning. Rule 1 for team-based learning is make it so hard that even the best student in the class cannot solve it on his or her. So for a lot of the individual parts of the group, scores, instead of being, you know, 80, 90, or whatever high percent, tend to range around the 50 to maybe even 40%. So even the best student says, whoa, I'm not sure I can do this. And the other students know, well, she might be the brightest student in the class, but there's no certainty that what she says is correct. In that case, everybody has to pitch in. Everybody has to work together. Okay, so how do you go about designing a course like that? I decided to apply something I already tried to apply to an existing course, but it's very difficult to do with an existing course. And we've had Carl Weinand here already advocate this approach, backward design. Start from the output rather than the input. Instead of saying, in this course we're going to cover this content, ask yourself, what do I want as the output end? It's very well described in this book by Grant Wiggins, Understanding by Design. The idea is that you start with the desired outcomes. And you ask yourself, what am I going to accept as evidence that I've accomplished these outcomes? And then finally, what instructional approach am I going to develop in order to maximize the output? Makes a lot of sense, but for somebody who was for many years taught by looking at the input end, the content of the PwC, it's actually not that easy to let it all go. So what I did was I surveyed all of the faculty here at Harvard who teaches a course that requires an introductory physics course in the physics department, in the engineering department, in chemistry, in biology. And I asked them about the output, what they thought would be a good desired outcome for an introductory physics course, as well as content. We got about 30 faculty who took the time of responding, and out came a set of lists, a set of outcomes, if you want, in 3 layers. At the top layer is a list of competencies. I'm not going to go into any details. I'll give you a link so you can download it if you want to look at it, because there's way too much detail. I want to get into the course, not just the description of the outcome. These competencies have nothing to do with the course per se. Ideally, I would like to see these competencies across the curriculum. They involve things you can see in the background like design and quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis and so on. Below that layer, I had a set of course goals, and the course goals fall into 4 broad categories. I want the students to be able to engage in self-directed learning. After all, learning how to learn is probably the most important skill in any education. When we give our students their diplomas, that's not when learning ends. That's when it really starts. And unless we equip them with skills to continue to not only learn but also assess themselves, it'll be hard to progress. I want them to master the content. I want them to be able to engage in effective teamwork, and I want them to exhibit professionalism, including ethics and punctuality and participation in the course. And then, of course, there's a very much longer list of specific content goals, which spans probably 6 pages, and I'm happy to share those with you. In fact, if you're ever interested in visiting the course, our visitor packet is at that URL, and I'll have the URL again at the end of my talk here, that lists all the details you possibly might want to know. The second thing that became clear was that I had to change the architecture of the group. This is a room in which I've been teaching for many, many years, and I write copy for business course, some center D or C. And you only have to look at this to see that it's completely focused on information transfer and on the faculty member in front, whereas the most important people in the classroom are students, not the professor in front. By the way, who's responsible for this architecture? Must be professors. No, it's not professors. Where does it come from? The Greeks, exactly. The ancient Greeks designed the amphitheater. What did they design the amphitheater for? For plays, exactly. Did they teach that way? No. If you look at an illustration of the School of Athens, you see very different pictures. You see people walking around and talk and discuss. The Sistine Chapel is a beautiful painting of the School of Athens. So the Greeks knew darn well not to use the performance space as a learning space, but somewhere in medieval Europe we called it the performance space as a learning space, and teaching became, in a sense, a performance act. So we had a library in Pierce Hall on the first floor that was not heavily used, and decided to reduce the area of the library and to redesign that room as a learning space. I was on a committee to redesign it. I was also on the committee for the 21st Century Classroom at the university. One of the first projects was to redesign the classroom in Stone Hall, which became the innovation room. And it was sort of interesting to go through that process. Initially, we had the idea of putting in a lot of technology, the same way MIT has a routine classroom. But then we decided, no, we don't know how people use technology. Let's just then focus on the aesthetics of the room and the organization of the room. The room has only mobile furniture. It can be arranged in tables that accommodate 6 people, or 8 people, or 12 people, depending on how many tables you put together. It's a beautiful space. It has windows all around. This created a problem because we couldn't put whiteboards. They would have been covering up the windows that are on 3 sides. You only see one side that has windows, and you see the only side that does not have windows. The other have even more windows than you can see there, which make this space very attractive. Except we bought these mobile boards, which you see a few of them, although most of them have been moved away in order to be able to take the picture. It turns out those mobile boards were the best possible thing. Because now, if you're in that room, even if you would like to lecture, you can't. Not only do half the students have their backs towards you, 80% of them are hidden by a board, and these boards are randomly distributed throughout the space. So this space is focused on interaction and on student-centered rather than instructive. If I take the microphone and say, can I have everybody's attention? The students don't even pay attention to me. It's very disconcerting at first, but once you come to terms with the fact that you're no longer the star in front of the room, it's actually probably a very good thing. So I decided also, right after that, I would not have any lectures, can't lecture in that room, and also no exams. I would like to talk about that. Some of you here know I've attended the talk I gave 2 years ago about assessment. If you want to know why I eliminated exams, I urge you to watch the video that are called Assessment, the Silent Killer. The idea is I wanted to take away the need for studies to study for an exam. I wanted them to focus on studying for learning. So, obviously I was going to use what is now known as the flipped classroom, which I started back in 1990. Initially, in its initial curriculum, the instructor in the classroom would give the first exposure to the material, and then you send the students to their rooms to go over the material, make sense of it, and create a deeper understanding. If you stop to think about it, we spend all our time as instructors on the easy part, the information transfer. In the 21st century, there's really no excuse for that. Ever since Gutenberg invented the printing press, there have been good methods for transferring information. So let's flip that around and ask the students to take the responsibility for the first exposure in their rooms, so that we can use the time with them in the classroom to build a deeper understanding. I've sort of done that with the instruction and flippers and labor learning analytics. Some of you know about that, and it's sort of growing worldwide as a movement. But this created an opportunity to also rethink the information transfer part. So I'm going to talk about 3 things. I'm going to talk about the information transfer, the other class part. I'm going to talk about discussions, which essentially are the Trojan horse. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the in-class activities, and then we're going to wrap up some data that we have collected over the past few years. So let's start with the information transfer. I've eliminated this. How do I replace that? Over the 20-some years that I did pre-instruction in Science Center B or C, I first asked us to read the book. Then in order to provide an extra little stick, I said, read the book and I'm going to give you a quiz. And then later when I found that this extrinsic motivation wasn't really good, I adopted a technique called just-in-time teaching, which sort of has not just a stick, but also a carrot in order to get them to do the reading. But I realized that I spent all of my time working hard on making the in-class experience a social experience. The instruction has students teach each other, interact with each other in the classroom, and deep down, learning is a social experience, not an individual experience. It's actually so strange, right? I mean, you just have to think about it. All of education is focused on the individual, both in the teaching as well as in the assessment. Even though society as a whole is a completely collaborative experience. No wonder we produce people who, might be very good working alone, but then when they get out in the workspace, it turns out they don't have the requisite collaborative skills. And the class is simply a social learning platform. The students log in through their social network, and then once they're on there, they can see who else is online on the book. The little avatars show up, and if they read the book and they don't understand something, they can highlight it. There's opens a chat window where you can ask a question. That question then sticks, and after a while, the page will be marked up. You can click on any of these markups, and it shows the dialogue with the students. Let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see it. I don't think you can read it, but I'll read it to you. Here's one student on October 20 last semester at midnight said, "I don't understand how this combination of factors tells you anything about direction." Blah blah blah. Then 20 minutes later, or 30 minutes later, another student said, "I think you may be able to think about the direction separately," and so on. And 2 days later, another student said, "This is a great question. Further elaborate." So what you see here is, in essence, an online version of peer discussion. The asynchronous interaction between students helping each other understand the material. Initially, we dove in, because, when you read that, when your fingers are itching to dive into the discussion, I quickly discovered that's the wrong thing to do. The ownership of the discussion should reside with the students. Because as soon as you dive in, they take whatever you were instructed to say as the gospel, and they very quickly start to expect you to answer all of their questions, and no longer take trouble of answering each other's questions as thoroughly as you might want. Okay, well, I could tell you much more about it. I'm just going to tell you that we use a combination of intrinsic and extrinsic factors to motivate students to participate, and that we get in an average course that we teach with about 67 students, 20,000 annotations. The students write more text than the author, in this case, has written in the book, and I took 25 years to do that. Okay, so let's talk about the projects. How do you design good projects? Right? We've had many labs and specific courses, and in a sense, laboratory exercises are like mini projects, but they're hardly motivating. On the other extreme, you can think of a project that you do for the entire semester in the fall and then another one in the spring, but how do you capture the entire curriculum in one big project? I ended up settling essentially on 3 projects per semester, 6 for the entire year, 1 in a month, so that I could partition the curriculum into 3 bits. We form teams. We do not let the students choose who they work with. In the real world, you don't choose who you work with either. So we basically engineer the team so that we diversify the students according to interest, abilities, and a number of other measures. I have to provide more detail later on. Now, in order to design the project, I learned a lot from the business school. I went to observe a number of classes there. And the business school, which makes money actually out of developing and selling cases to other business schools, has a set of design criteria for the cases. And it turned out that those design criteria match beautifully onto projects. Just replace the word case by project. Here they are. To be successful, the case, or in my case, the project, must 1, require the practical application of skills. So say you teach a finance class in the business school. Well, you want your students later on to be able to determine the market capitalization of the company, or a reasonable stock price at an initial public offering. Makes sense, right? What about physics? Well, same thing. You want your students to be able to apply the laws of mechanics to blah, 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 and so on. So that's easily translated. The second rule is, to be successful, the case must be linked to real-world problems. You know how the business school does that? Very simple. They go to the Wall Street Journal, they look at real cases, real companies, and then they change the name of the company so the students can just Google what the IPO price or the market capitalization of the company is. What's the rule?